G'day. I was just getting a request last night to show off how I did my Oppenheimer scene. I've only got about 15 minutes before I have to go to class, so I will try to keep this pretty brief within 15 minutes. But it's very complicated, but also not complicated at the same time. There's a lot of stuff added, and then there's a lot of keyframes and whatnot that I've spent, about 6 hours or so, playing around trying to perfect it all. Um, Here's the thing, I did spend a heap of time working on it, and it is quite complex, but at the same time, it's mostly just playing with stuff. You could get the same effect with like 30 minutes of work. There's a lot of extra stuff like playing around with camera and getting the camera to focus on the explosion and get the perfect amount that I'm wanting. So you could achieve it a lot faster. I will link. This is one of the few projects where I'm not going to make a tutorial on how to do it because it's going to be too long. It took me too long to do it, and there's so much stuff that I played around with. I'm not going to be able to remember it. I don't remember really at all. It was one of those, late at night, let me just see if I can get this done sort of thing. Um, Other thing, I'll put the preset into Google Drive, and I will put that in the description. I just want to note that that is free for personal use. Please do not use that for commercial projects or anything like that. Please do not resell it. Anything like that. I doubt you guys will. It's not that great. It's all right, but it's I if you do want to use it for anything like that, just flick me a message in a comment, and I can contact you privately or something like that, and we can work something out. But otherwise, if you just want to see the rough idea of how I made it, go ahead. You know what I mean? If it's just private use for personal projects, go ahead. You know what I mean? You can use the preset. I just don't want it to be stolen or anything like that. Yes, that's my Oppenheimer explosion. I did have a bit of camera movement as well. Um, Sorry if I'm having it kind of small. My PC is not doing great. So I want the best performance for you guys watching it. Um, there's that. So I have the camera moving back and everything, and it's just kind of trying to trace or track the explosion to the best extent. I didn't want to make it too fast. I want it to be quite cinematic, so it does cut off a bit of it, but you could probably refine it for your own project if you want to use it. Um, but otherwise, there's this. I do run into the issue of hitting the colliders as well, but you could bump these up. Bear in mind, this is the 151. It kills my PC. I was struggling to render it. I was actually rendering it at 1.2 million, but that was breaking my PC. So if you have a better PC, I'll see if I can upload both the 10 gig version and this 15, 16 gigabyte version. But the 10 gigabyte will just have a smaller the voxel count will be a lot smaller as well. That's all there is to it. I don't think I changed any of the parameters. So getting along with it. Um for the most part, this one is based off of, I should state it is, I got most of my idea, I think, from the artillery explosion 2. This is I pretty much just copied this. I did not use this preset. I wanted to work out how to make it myself. So if you want an idea of where I started with, just look through this artillery preset. This will give you a very, very, very good basis of how it's made. You can sort of see the inspiration, albeit a lot of it is significantly changed. Let me go back to my project, Oppenheimer 2. Um, so with that in context, I have this line force is effectively, once it gets to a specific point, or not really to a specific point, but this is like a little bit of wind. It's not really noticeable, but it's like subtle enough to still exist. So it does push it a little bit, all that extra wafting stuff to the side, and that just gives it a little bit of extra movement to it. I also have a noise, which is just overall affecting it. That's just going to give it a bit more depth to the explosion and to the smoke itself of the sim. Getting started, I have a don't know if we're going to be able to see this. Shape activity, show emitter. There we go, so it is going to show. I have a bit of a weird angled cylinder here. This is just to, it effectively pushes the explosion into the ground, which is sort of giving it a nicer effect in that regard. It also keeps it a little bit off. That gave the best effect, and it is similar to that original one. That gives it that quite nice effect. This is, so bear in mind, this is made up of 3 parts. The majority of the stuff is actually happening in this part, so you can mostly get the same effect here. I do have the extra, sorry if you guys can hear the wind, it's apparently very windy. I also have this, which is getting a bit of the explosion that adds a heap of just extra. That's where you get the crazy amount of you know, colors and flames and stuff in the simulation. Then this, I wasn't particularly happy with the I guess the little wave at the bottom, so that just gives it a little bit of depth to the bottom. As I mean, it looks nice, but there's not much happening at the bottom here, so I just wanted to give it a little bit extra. And what this will do is this sort of pushes. I have it offset, but it helps push some of the extra bottom wafts of smoke. So, and you can sort of see these little trails still here, and that's just the smoke from here is just lasting a very long time because I have longer trails. So it just gives it a bit more depth to the explosion, I find. Oop. If I turn it back on. There we go, you can sort of see it as it wafts out. That's quite noticeable difference. It just helps distribute it a bit better, I find. Because you can, here's the thing, I wouldn't try forcing everything onto one emitter. There's no reason you should force everything onto the one emitter. So if you can, just separate into multiple different things, and you know, see if you can get that feel. 1 second, I'm just gonna quickly doing something. So next off we have a massive force pushing it upwards, and that's where you're gonna get a lot of the you know, that's gonna help it rise. Because you need, oh, that looks pretty cool. You know, you can add a heap of buoyancy and stuff like that, but then it's gonna make it all feel a lot faster. I want it to feel big, I want it to feel slow, but I still want it to go upwards. You can play around with the buoyancy, and I did try play around with the buoyancy, but it makes it all feel quite fast. That's just the way the buoyancy is. So by having you know, a force, it just helps distribute that smoke a bit better. I also have a noise. This just, you know, adds a bit more depth, so it's less you know, it just gives it a bit more what do you call it? It helps shape it a bit better, I find. I feel like the result, I don't know how noticeable it will be, but in here, but it does help shape it a bit more. When I have it turned on, for some reason it's not turning on whenever I want it to. Bit hard to notice. Now bear in mind, because I was doing an upscaled version, you'll see a lot more, so there is a lot more to it. And like, there's a lot more, when you're upscaling it to that point that I was, you just want to bring out as much as you can with the sim. And you just want to have all these like micro portions of difference that gives it that overall nicer feel. If it all feels very samey, then it's gonna feel very CG. Yeah, I mean, it looks very CG in my opinion, but I did the best I could. And anyway, so these particles help push everything up, and that's what gives it that feel. These particles at the bottom, and that's what gives it all this flaming look. That's what makes it look really nice. And I already stated what these were. So I think these, I was kind of playing around similar to what the other one was in that preset, the artillery 2. So it's just entangled particles. Effectively just shooting them upwards and injecting some smoke. I heap of temperature, flames, and velocity, and that's just what helps push it all up as well. And this is pretty much the same with some slight discrepancies. Just to make it so it goes outwards instead of upwards. And going into the emitter, what do I have? So I keyframed quite a lot of it. I have the smoke rate going upwards, and that's just so that if we don't have this, I don't know if there's a good way. To turn it off. I don't think there is. But basically this just makes sure that it's a pretty consistent rate of smoke, and otherwise it's just going to be mainly this puff at the start, and you're not going to have this extra jet at the bottom. That's what you really want to play with it quite a bit depending on your thing, but that and the additional rate is what gets it started. That's how it has like such a massive part. So this effectively, the sim would look similar to just this part if you don't add the additional pressure rate and the smoke rate. That's just kind of what the sim would look like. What else did I change? Emission gradient, I'm going to explain how important that is later, but that's probably the biggest thing. You want to look at emission gradient. That's your biggest thing. Just playing around with these. There's not too much you need to do in that regard. Sorry if my computer's running bad. It's just hard to run. Just having a massive voxel count just gives it so much depth to it as well. But that's kind of the same with everything. Bigger the explosion, the more voxels you want. Kills your PC. That's the biggest issue here. So just playing around with these. You want a very slow dissipation with yours. Just making sure that it stays there for enough time. Now at the end I do cull the smoke just because I want it to have an end. I don't want it to end on effectively nothing, nor do I want it to be 2,000 frames long. That's too long for me. Just for a small personal project. So I ended up culling it. I think I did the smoke density minimum limit, and I just did that over time. So this will I use this to cull it, which effectively just means depending on the density, can you see that or can you not see it? So it gets rid of some of it. Otherwise, small amount of buoyancy, as I stated before, a heap of smoke weight because you want it to feel thick and heavy, as you generally would for that sort of stuff. And I don't think I played too much with these. No. Particle high quality rendering, probably a waste of time. Probably don't need to do that. I think that's the basis. I will re-go into it in the context of the other thing to show what main things I did. But I spent a lot of time playing around with the shading, and you would want to do the same. So this is just adding a lot of, this is what gives it that really nice feel. I think if I change it, I don't know if this is gonna override all my settings. Not smoke. Fingers crossed it doesn't override anything. Color ramp. This is the issue you run into. Using like a default, you need to play around a lot with, this. Now, obviously my settings are a little bit, messed up. If I reset these all to default, it looks pretty bad. Even if we try set it to be like that whole red, it's not going to look great. There's not going to be that much of a difference in it. So you run into the issue of really needing to keyframe a lot of it. So I had the min and max. So that's making sure that it's not overexposed at the start. And the end still, like, it lasts longer. Because if you cut this out, it gets overexposed. And you don't want that. You don't want it to be, too small that it's like you can see everything. It's just playing around with it. So at the end of around here, if you don't keyframe it, it's either going to be way overexposed. Now it's glitching a little bit because of it's already keyframed, so it's not like the keyframes overriding my changes. But otherwise, it's going to be way too small if you want to not keyframe it. So it's just going to be very red and look yucky. I did something bad. So just make sure you want to try match the start with what that looks like. So move it down in relation to how progressive the explosion is, and it's really just changing the shaping by flames, so boosting that a heap. The density, how much flames do you want it to be heaps? I decided no, I don't want there to be too much, because you still want to see the smoke's a very important part of it in my opinion. And I don't want the flames to last forever, right? So it's just black body, playing with the black body. Where do you get the most detail? You can make a custom fire gradient. I think I tried that. Exposed gradient. I don't think it came out the way I had tried it. Apparently it's not linked up anymore. And yeah, the smoke, I didn't really change anything. It's just density clamp. Just there's not much to it in the density scale. You just want to boost it too much. You don't want it to have this very artificial look, over sharpened look. So just trying to find where's the best, in between. And I found this, not too much, not too little. Bit of smoke sharpening, a little bit of flame sharpening, a little bit of temperature. No, these are a little bit. These are increased, but not by much. I think it's spaced 200. So you don't want it to look too sharp. Oh no, it's 100. So never mind, just a little bit. And then yeah, outside of that, it's really just playing around the all these. This is where you're going to find your micro discrepancies. Do you want it to be darker? Do you want it to be lighter? For your thing. How, yeah, it's a lot of that. Where do you want the shadows? So you have your direct light contribution, but if you go back into your ambient occlusion, that's like the deeper parts of it. It's because it's all quite big, and quite a lot going on. A lot of these aren't going to be so micro anymore. But yeah, just changing how different sections of it affect it. See, the scattering occlusion was quite nice for me. I don't know. There's not much I can really say, as it's just there's quite a lot going on. I will just sort of make something very basic. My class is meant to have started, so this is not going to be too long. I'm going to try to keep this relatively brief. Don't save whatever I did there. So the key things to note would be the emission gradient. That's how nukey it's going to look. See how it feels there? It's nice. Boosting it here is going to give it that very mushroom cloudy look. As you can see, that's what pulls it inwards again into itself. So maybe moving it to like a 20 here, I think. It's really about playing with it. You want enough to the point where there's still some smoke left at the bottom, but it's very wafty, mushroomy at the top. There we go, and we've got it nice. So that's a very important thing to note. You do not need fuel emission. I don't think I have fuel emission in my base one. I'm not too certain. And then it's really just changing up the pressure. So we just unkeyframe, looking at what does what in this. What am I doing? If we just have 100, it's just that, and it's nothing. If we go to the 400, it was at the start, then it just is very big and it doesn't really get smaller. So I don't know if I can do this real time, but having it start a lot and then going down, to 100 that will give it a good start. I don't know if this is, so have it a lot and then go down to about 100. That's what's going to give it that nice wafty feel at the bottom. But yeah, just making sure. I think I don't know. There's a bit of a bad video. I'm sorry, but I will put in my project file if you want to go through it and get a bit more in depth into it. I'm just trying to sort of explain what the idea of each part was. Because there's no real right or wrong for why one thing does one thing, the other thing does another thing, as it's the culmination of everything that achieves the result. So yeah, I'm sorry about just this being a very wafty, no real, this does that, this does that, this does that, as with my tutorials, because those are generally not like 100 things going and, changing everything to give that result. Like, the force line and the buoyancy do kind of the same thing when they both push it upwards. It's just more about those very small differences that I want to be changed. Like, do I want it to be a lot at the start of movement, then not much at the end? I don't know. So I think I did have these. Yeah, wait, never mind. I was going to say something, but it's irrelevant. It's due to the nature of how it works. But yeah, just going through this, I think this was the best thing to use as reference. This artillery explosion to get the best. Obviously, I don't have it the additional pressure working anymore. But yeah, just going through this, looking through how this works, and it's really just about playing with stuff. Just note you want lots of stuff happening at the start, then sort of slow it down around the end. Make sure you have stuff pushing it upwards, and make sure you're still injecting enough smoke into the sim so that it still lasts. Otherwise, it's just going to be one and done, or it's going to be just too constant, and your attention it's not going to give it that feel, the size feel. Oh, sorry, I thought I muted that. Seems like my class is starting, so I just finish it up. Yeah, you just want to focus on those two things. And then it's really just focus on how the smoke is running in the scene, and definitely the emission gradient. That's very important to give it that mushroomy feel. And last thing is just play around with your shading. If you really want, just do black body. Black body's a nice, good feel already, and then it's really just about playing with it. See, now we've got this very nice. We've just already given it a whole bunch more depth to it just by increasing the remapping, and then you would cull it out. So if we went, I'll just quickly do this before I leave. We want this to be, you just want to not have it overexposed or underexposed. And decrease that. Oops, this isn't at the start. So as you can see, we're culling the end, and that's making sure it's not overexposed. So that's going to keep it pretty consistent colored flames. That's the best look you're going to get from my experience. So yeah, I hope that helps. Let me know if you do have any extra questions. Otherwise, just DM me on Discord. I think my Discord link will be, I can probably put it below. I think I have my server, that is. Otherwise, you can find me. I'm, I think, Toby on the Embergen Discord, so just ask away. Look, you can ask me. Anybody who's made nukes before, need be able to help me with this, I'll probably be I'm always on there. But yeah, just remember those. Anyway, thank you guys all for watching. Hope that helps. I'll upload my stuff to Google Drive. You should be able to steal it from there. Otherwise, thank you guys all for watching, and yeah, catch up. Bye.